They were dedicated to scholarship and teaching. But on weekends, they would go out to all the parishes in the Philadelphia area to help out. You know. So they were still working in parishes and things like that. But Dr. Theodore Mayerne believes in chemistry. He's a follower of Paracelsus, who was an even earlier practitioner of this and had quite a lot. I think Paracelsus was the originator for the concept of Faust. You familiar with Faust? Who Faust was? You know who Faust was?
Oh, no, it's a legend.
Are you sure your name isn't Hermione?
Okay, wow.
No, I love Hermione. Well, I'm not saying I love. Don't get me in trouble here.
Necklace, but I'm not saying I don't have a time traveling necklace.
You don't have a.
Time traveling necklace. Time traveling.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool? Well, no, it'd be very confusing. I did not like.
Ask Hegel about it.
Yeah, I think I'm good. Yeah.
It's just a knowledge thing. You know, Hermione always has the answer, and I love it. That's great. But Faust was. So this is, you know, the story of the guy who sells his soul to the devil for something, right? That's Faust. Or whoever. Gosh, he looks a lot like me.
The beard looks good.
You just need the red hat. And
I
the
don't have a red hat. But so the Faust legend, who's the original Faust? The historical Johann Georg Faust, maybe, who knows? But some even thought Descartes might have been Faust. And what is he? Well, he's an alchemist. You know, remember alchemism believed you could transform lead into gold. The idea is the philosopher's stone. The idea is that if everything is made up of particles, then basically if you could figure out how to transform the particles from one element to another, you should be able to transform anything into anything else.
Just like if you drive a stick shift, you can drive anything else. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
that's true.
Do you know how to drive a stick shift?
I grew up on stick shift.
Oh
Yeah, for one Christmas I got a stick shift.
That's it? Just the
No. Yeah, they don't work
So
without
So he was supposed to be like a symbol for like chemistry.
well, all of the chemists, the early chemists, even Mayerne, would be alchemists. Where do you draw the line at the time, right? We still don't know, you know, really. I mean, some stuff is thought to be magical, and you know, no, that doesn't work, right? And other stuff, you know, actually works, right? But I mean, we keep finding new things that ab initio seem magical. Wow, amazing, and so it's magic. But then it gradually becomes, well, we all know why that works, right? But so the idea of Faust was that he wanted to have something, and he met Mephistopheles, and Mephistopheles offered him whatever it was he wanted in exchange for his own soul. And most of these variations, at the end of whatever it is, Mephistopheles comes back, and the contract is a good one, and you sold me your soul, and so Faust goes screaming off into hell. Ah! You know, however the musical ends. Great scenes, you know, where you know the devil basically, fire and brimstone. Yes.
In the iteration that I know, Faust sold his soul over trying to impart all knowledge.
Yeah, that's the one I know too.
That's that would be Goethe. Goethe's version of it. And the neat thing about that is, because he got all knowledge, he got wise enough that when the devil came to collect, he outsmarted the devil and avoided losing his soul. So that's a a neat version of that. But I wanted to tie that in because you'll see lots of different operas on Faust. By Gounod is a famous one. I think it's a big ballet part in that one. So there's lots of different versions of the Faust. And was Descartes one, or was another one who was actually called Faust, etc.? The quiz question, by the way, for today is, what do you think of Dr. Theodore Mayerne? How odd was he to start arguing for physical causes of health and illness at a time where magic was really what everybody believed in? Like if the sword that cut you caused an infection, to cure the infection, you had to get a hold of that sword and perform a ritual over the sword. It's a spiritual thing. You have to cure it at the source, the sword, by having a religious ritual that would get rid of the infection. Didn't work, by the way, unless you had a good immune system.
It's like snakes. You get bitten by a snake, you have to identify the snake, just get the cure.
But the neat thing about Dr. Theodore Mayerne is he's an exemplar of a movement that is just totally contrary to what so many people believed was the nature of illnesses and so on. Remember, plagues are caused by the evil things that people did with respect to what God wanted them to do, as opposed to mice getting, on the ships, in the Middle East and bringing vermin that, no one had immunity to, and getting everybody sick with the plague, the bubonic plague and things of that sort. Did we cover both Hobbes and Descartes enough? There's so much more to talk about.
What about Calvin?
John Calvin was an associate of Martin Luther. I'm not sure if they spent much time with one another, but they were both Augustinians, and John Calvin, in a sense, was a follower then of Martin Luther and started his own church, which became the Calvinist Church in Geneva. And I also mentioned that one of his followers was John Knox, really ugly guy, John Knox. And John Knox went back to Scotland and was the founder of the Presbyterian Church. Hated women.
You don't see that. I can definitely see that.
And especially if they were like the queen. The queen, he was, he was against, the queen, Queen Mary. Didn't think women should be in charge of anything. And his
like all of them? That's a lot of women. That's like half your population size. I mean, so was it like an all like male like church then at the time? Like while he was the editor? Like was it like an all men like members only thing?
And the presbyters, yeah. Oh, absolutely, they would be all
I
men.
mean, if he looks like that, then I can understand why he would hate
Follow-up question, so were you just not allowed to get married or anything like that? If you were like a follower of that church, were you just like have
No,
to?
they married. They married. Luther, as an Augustinian monk, could not marry. But once he started his own church, he decided, oh, the heck with this. And he married a nun. And they had like 6 kids. So not only did they get married, they also knew what they could do with that.
Sign me up.
By chance, repeat the quiz question.
Yes, what do you think of Dr. Theodore Mayern? The, yes,
Is it on the website, like the quiz question?
yes. It's on the notes. So if you go to the notes, I already have that posted. Yeah, I mean, the last one was, who do you think is more influenced by Galileo, Descartes, you know, whatever. But then the second question of the same two is, what do you think of Dr. Theodore Mayern? Because very few people that I've met have ever heard of him.
I didn't know.
And the idea that medicine, at a certain point, you know, is not something that you went to the doctor and the doctor would say, drink orange juice, you know, or, you know, things like that. You know, I mean, you know, back in the day, it seemed like doctors basically, you know, thought that the best cure for whatever you have is drink this, which will make you shit everything out, you know, and that will get rid of it. Which, by the way, sometimes they still do.
What a
Depending on the
genius.
thing, you know, yeah, I mean, you know, there's all kinds of things that they thought. And part of it seems to be the idea that the body is evil. You don't want to treat the evil body very well, or it takes advantage of you, you know? Like kids, you know, you give them a treat, they start getting rowdy and they want their treat, you know, and you have to beat them, you know, to make sure that they don't ask for treats ever more, you know, spare the rod,
I mean, like,
spoil the child. You've heard that line, right? The whole idea is, you know, if you don't beat, you know, and by the way, you heard rule of thumb? Rule of thumb?
What's the rule of thumb?
Don't beat your wife with a rod that's thicker than your thumb.
That's
Because then it's abuse.
That's pretty reasonable.
It's not my fault, that's, yes.
I didn't care about that.
Rule of thumb, you guys ever heard of that?
That was a little
That's a saying.
uncalled for, yeah. I never heard of that rule of thumb before.
Yeah, apparently that one didn't get around.
How do you spell thumb?
Didn't make it to
Goodness.
Stop around making out.
Yeah.
So it's like rule of thumb, just like the same.
Well, a stick allowed for wife beating under English common law.
Also, rule of thumb just is the same. Rule of thumb doesn't mean that.
Thumb.
Oh, I like that saying.
Don't follow that rule. That's not a good rule to follow.
I don't know if that rule's the best one.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't make sense in my house because my wife is French.
Yeah, exactly. Those
There,
cast iron
yeah.
skillets,
Oh,
just
that's
like,
crazy.
bam.
See you, do we meet next Monday? We do, or when's the holiday break?
It should be like the 11th or 19th. So I think we should.
So we're
we
good.
should have
Okay,
next
so
week,
see you next week. No, I won't be upstairs because I have an appointment, so I have to leave, but have a good weekend. Enjoy the remaining parts of Fur Rendezvous if you get the purchase.
I was absent on Monday and I answered the quiz question for today instead of
Oh, that's,
yesterday.
so you're ahead of the game.
But I
You can
did.
go back and do the other one too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool.